Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Conversation Show powered by the Emerging India Forum TIF and our technology partner Prime Infotech Solution. This is the Emerging Lawyer series and today's theme is Navigating Civil and Corporate Law. I am Jolly Singh, co-host at Coffee and associate with Prime Infotech Solution. And today we are honored to have Lakshmi Menon, an independent legal practitioner based in Bengaluru, joining us with a rich academic background that includes a B.A LL.B honors from the National Law University of Advanced Legal Studies and a postgraduate degree from the University of Oxford. Lakshmi has carved a niche for herself in the areas of civil, corporate, and commercial law. Her expertise extends to arbitration and ADR, and she currently serves on the Executive Council of the ADRES International Centre for Arbitration. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dolly.
Ma'am, before I get into the conversation, let me just brief you about the flow. We have three rounds in total. The first would be the professional questions round. The second will be the personal questions round, and we will be ending the entire conversation with a very fun rapid fire round. So, just to let you and the audience know that this is the Emerging Lawyer series, and today's theme is going to be the navigating civil and corporate law, and we would be talking about having a conversation around that only. If you're ready, let's start with the very first round, which is the professional questions round. Are you ready, ma'am?
Yes, good to go.
Okay, ma'am. So, my very first question to you would be, ma'am, that could you share your experience practicing as an independent legal counsel at the law chambers of Lakshmi Menon, and what inspired you to start your own practice?
Right. I think I'll take the second question first.
Sure.
Like everybody starts out, you work under a senior or you work under a firm. And then at some point in time, I think in my career, my heart called out to litigation. And I said, this is where I want to be. But of course, it takes a lot of time to learn the trade, to experience for yourself under some good guidance as to what this is about. So I think I took my time. I worked with a law firm for the first 3 years, then did my post graduation. Again, worked with a senior for another 2 years. That's when I decided that, okay, I might be ready to start my own chambers. Litigation was always at the back of my mind, and this is something that I set out to do with all my heart, like I said. So I think confidence to start an independent practice comes from a very honest self-assessment of your skills, of where you stand, of what sort of matters you can attract, and of course the confidence that your friends and family and your seniors around you will give you. I think everything came together and I got very lucky. So when I went independent, it was not the best of times because, of course, nobody would be able to predict COVID at that point in time. It was six
Right,
months when
right,
I went independent and COVID happened. But
right.
I think that's also part of the profession itself. You should be ready for the unexpected. And that, in a way, taught me that how much ever you plan, your plan A might be very good, but you also need to have plan B. Luckily, I didn't have to utilize plan B much, but here I am. It's now been 6 years in independent practice and it's going fun.
Definitely, ma'am. And for every aspiring legal professional, it's like a dream who is into litigation specifically to have a chamber of their own, or let's say to start something of their own, get independent and not be under somebody. So that is, and you took the challenge, and that inspires a lot of us because COVID was not easy. Uh, yes, ma'am, definitely. So, how has your academic journey at the University of Oxford influenced your approach to legal practice, especially in the areas of civil and commercial?
Okay, so the unique part about Oxford, I don't know how many people know this, is that there is no concept of a university and a building, and it's not your traditional post-graduation, so to speak. So there are, at least to my knowledge, there are very few universities like Oxford or Cambridge that give the student an opportunity to mold their own uh, career, so to speak, in terms of the papers that they choose. So Oxford has about 40 papers that any postgraduate law student can take up. And you can make a combination of any 4 papers. And it can be anything as diverse as I want to do human rights and I want to do international trade law, tax law, corporate law, whatever combination you want, you can make out of those 4 papers. And I think that was the best part of the university's approach to education as well. It's very open, the conversation is very free flowing, there is no compartmentalization of subjects. I think that's something that every lawyer should understand, because given how law is progressing, given how rapidly changes are occurring, it is very important to have that open, free flowing conversation even in your mind, that you see the interconnection between various laws. So I think that was my starting point for falling in love with Oxford. Of course, their method of teaching is also very, very different, and I think that's something that even universities in India should try and incorporate. I know that it is happening slowly but surely, but another thing about Oxford is they don't sit and make you read and just answer that in an exam paper. I'll give you an example. So every subject has about 3 sessions to it. So if I'm teaching you something as simple as how do you form a company, if that's the topic, the first class is just a lecture. Your lecturer comes, teaches you how it happens here. The second class is something called a seminar. In the seminar, the entire class is expected to answer questions around whatever has been taught. And those questions are also your very unconventional ones. They will teach you something and then they will want to check how much of it you've understood and how much can you implement. And finally, there is the tutorial class where it's a one-on-one. You sit with your professor and you are supposed to answer an essay question and come and defend that question in front of your audience, which is one professor and maybe 2 or 3 other colleagues from your class. So I think that level of detailing, that level of understanding is what is appreciated, and they don't focus on teaching you too many things. They focus on teaching you what is important and allowing you to go as deep as you want into that subject. So I think that sort of hones your skills as a lawyer also. It's not about a game of volume anymore. It is also a game of depth and value. So I think that's something I would definitely recommend if everybody has the option or aspires to go through something as rigorous as that, they should do it. Definitely invaluable for a lawyer.
Definitely, ma'am. Ma'am, with your experience in diverse legal areas such as debt recovery, taxation, how do you prioritize and manage these various aspects into your daily practice?
See, the thing is, any commercial law for that matter, whether taxation, corporate law, debt recovery, all of these are interconnected. I don't know how many of us are able to see that today, but at many levels, you can't advise somebody on a particular aspect without knowing what are the repercussions of that advice under various other laws. So, to my mind, all of this, because it is one broad ambit that we call or know as commercial law, it's easy. At the same time, it is as difficult to keep in touch with what is happening. So, if you know one aspect, I would highly recommend that you go behind the other aspects also, so that you are updated on all fronts at the same time. So it's really not about prioritizing one over the other, because you simply can't do it. It is about learning on the job and keeping pace with daily developments on all fronts.
Absolutely, ma'am. As a member of the Executive Council at ADRES International Centre for Arbitration, how do you see the future of ADR evolving in India?
So address now is something that has happened very recently to me. I was co-opted as being a part of the Executive Council. It's an online dispute resolution forum. But I think on a broader scale, arbitration and mediation, in fact, are going to be the next big thing in dispute resolution in India. People are consciously moving away from the traditional court system, and for good reason, because our courts are admittedly overcrowded. They are
Yeah.
suffering from long backlogs, despite our judges being exceptional. Because I have some experience of handling matters abroad as well. I used to work with my professors and be their pupil around courts. So I have seen how much of a leeway or how much of time that the courts outside enjoy to dispose of even a single matter. So lawyers don't take up more than 1 or 2 briefs in a month in outside jurisdictions, whereas in India, if you can't hold at least 10 files when you go to court, it's very difficult to make a living. That is the hard truth of it. So I think that is where alternate dispute mechanisms such as arbitration and mediation will step in, and they have very evidently. There are also various avenues that we are exploring right now, not just as part of the center, but I'm also part of this Bangalore ADR week that we conducted recently. where for the first time the High Court partnered with a private organization and saw grand success out of the event, which is again very, very exciting and very promising for the future. I think these little initiatives are going a long way in inspiring confidence, even in the various stakeholders who have to use the system. It is when these alternative mechanisms have the blessings of the traditional court system as well, that the common man is feeling confident to use them. Otherwise, you think that there is some closed door arbitration and nobody understands what's happening. It should be of some use to the public, and I think that's happening now, and people are seeing the benefits of it. So I think it's a great space to be in right now in India, not just in India, the world over.
Definitely, ma'am. And if we are talking about ADR and the dynamic nature of it, it evolving every day, apart from the people in general, legal professionals are also getting attracted towards specializing. Law students are into getting into ADR and everything. So they have also one new avenue open to it. Do you think? Don't you think? And the career they would be looking at after exploring ADR and getting into it for their niche respectively. So it is going to be next big thing for the law students as well.
That is right. That is right. You are absolutely right in that it is going to open up a lot of career opportunities. But my only suggestion to anybody who wants to do ADR is that they should know some amount of traditional trial also. Of
Hmm.
course, the format is very different. The format in the ADR mechanisms encourages flexibility, it encourages lesser amount of emphasis on procedural aspects. But it is good to start off your career, I would say, as a trial lawyer, at least for some time before you can think of focusing completely just on ADR. Because I think a good trial lawyer will survive anywhere, whether it is the traditional court system, whether it is within your ADR space, or whether it is doing appellate work in the superior forums or wherever it is. I think to start off, you have to have a great foundation, and that foundation will come from appreciation of any one format of civil practice. And I think it is good to begin at that foundational level and then decide to focus on A or B type of mechanism. Because see, at the end of the day, the dispute is the same, the laws applicable are the same, the parties will remain the same, the judges will remain more or less the same. In the ADR space, you have people also on the technical front. Other than that, there is no real difference. It's all trained minds at the end of the day who will consider a dispute. So I think for you to become a specialist at alternative dispute mechanisms, you should have some idea of the traditional system as well.
Definitely, ma'am. Ma'am, what are most of the significant challenges you have faced while practicing law in India, particularly in the areas of corporate law and arbitration?
Corporate law and arbitration. I think, see, in India, the one palpable difference that I feel from the outside jurisdictions that I have had the opportunity and good fortune to be exposed to is that in India, I think there is a grand vacuum in trained professionals. And when I say trained professionals, I say this with great respect, but it includes some parts of the judiciary as well. I think when we are focusing on changing law on the one side, the legislature is coming up with new laws every day. There is, for example, the insolvency and bankruptcy law, which is very new in the corporate law space. But do we have trained professionals both on the bar and the bench who can take this forward? I think we have some gap to bridge there. And of course, client expectations in India are far from real sometimes. Not just in India, I would say this is a concern world over. But why I would pick on us as a jurisdiction is because if you look at the level of compliance to court orders or to arbitral awards outside of India, I would say on a ballpark 80 to 85% of people will think twice before challenging a court order. But in India, the normal response is if you lose a case, you will file an appeal.
Yes.
Your monetary circumstances permitting, people are not very interested in ending the litigation amicably if that's an option. So, for various reasons, when people end up in court to litigate, I would suggest as a cultural shift, it is important for us to sit and introspect why we want to litigate, what are the motivations behind litigating, whether it is in the traditional court setup or whether it is in an ADR sort of platform. That change, I think, should be first internalized, and then we can move forward as a jurisdiction in any of the legal spaces. I think that's my assessment so far.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, how do you stay updated with the ever-changing landscape of the corporate and commercial law again? And what role does continuous learning play in your practice?
Oh, I think that's survival for us because that's
Yeah.
key. We have to keep reading on a daily basis. And I think most of the learning in our profession, after a certain point in time, it becomes more evident. I think I am seeing that change right now, where you learn on the job. You have to keep your eyes and ears open, be open to discussions with peers, with your seniors, with just sitting in court, you learn a lot. You have to just be prepared to absorb knowledge from any quarter, I would say. Have no qualms about asking people about things that you don't know. The more you ask, the more curiosity you have. I think that will be well rewarded. And that's the only way you will keep updated also, because other than a curious mind, I don't think knowledge will come to anybody else.
Uh, Ma'am, can you describe your approach to mentoring young lawyers, especially those interested in civil and corporate law?
Mentoring young lawyers, so I'm not so old myself, but I will tell you my
Yeah,
two.
like who are like very much fresh and just out
Right,
of their
right.
law school. How should they like approach to starting their career, and what should be the initial things that should be very much kept in mind before they start off?
Right. I think I will give you friendly advice. Like I said, I have not seen too much of the legal profession myself. I'm only 11 years into the profession, and for a lawyer, that is actually very young.
Yeah.
I will tell you what I have learned and probably encourage the younger lot to make their own mistakes. Don't repeat at least my mistakes. I think anybody who's starting off at the very beginning of their career, I have learned this from experience that focusing on a particular subject or one aspect of the law might be slightly detrimental to your progression if you want to become a general practitioner later. I'm not saying that's the wrong approach. I'm only saying that amongst whatever you choose to do, it should be well considered. Because if you are in the law and if you're here for the long run, it's a very time-taking profession for you to mature into a capable lawyer or a capable counsel. What I'm trying to suggest is if you know exactly what you want to do and you are ready to step into a niche as soon as you graduate, go for it. But then from that niche to shift to doing something general will become a little difficult. So my practical experience has been that I tried everything first. I gave 3 years, and then I figured what I want to do. After I've decided that certain things are meant for me, some things just don't occur to me, some things I'm not interested in, I have then decided to shape my practice accordingly. So I would say give yourself the time and the space to grow. Show loyalty to an organization, learn as much as you can from one place, then move on to the next. And in doing that, I would say always have smooth exits, don't burn bridges, because in the fraternity, the most important aspect that you will realize going forward is that you need people to back you in terms of legal support, in terms of knowledge, in terms of referring clients to you. So I think as a young lawyer, be very conscious of that, be respectful of age, of experience, of generally well-meaning people, because not everybody is out to get you. And I think going forward, you will realize that the friendships and that the mentorships that propelled you forward are the most valuable in the profession. So I would say for a young lawyer, try and grow as a person and as a lawyer as you progress, because I don't think one is independent of the other. Only a good human being can make a good lawyer. And I want to underscore that because I know the sort of competition that there is currently, and it's cutthroat. There's no shying away from acknowledging that everybody is as good as the next person and everybody is ambitious, which is a good thing.
Yes, ma'am.
But I would say learn to grow together. If you want to go far, you have to go together. If you want to go alone, then you will not get as far as ambition takes you.
And for all of this, connections play a very pretty much important role.
It does. And I am not suggesting for a moment that you have to just latch on to people to make.
Yeah.
It should be genuine. You should
Right.
find friendships, because outside of the law, you will not have time. And these are the only people who will come to your help even later. At least that's my personal experience.
Definitely, completely agreed with you, ma'am. Ma'am, what are some of the legal trends in the legal industry that you believe young legal professionals should be aware of, especially in the context of the topic that we are discussing, civil and consumer law? So,
Hmm. Right. So I would say, of course, we can't now ignore the role of technology in whatever we are doing, including for lawyers. And as a young lawyer, it is easier for us to adopt to technology than it is for somebody who has already spent 30, 40 years in the profession. So be familiar with using technology to your advantage. That's my first suggestion, because people are getting smarter, AI
yeah,
is getting smarter. And if you have to stay ahead of the curve, it is very important that you know how to use these tools. And of course, you should know how to filter information. Not everything that the internet or the AI chat GPT or any other forum like that is putting out to you is 100% correct. Even at the end of that, you see one tagline saying, please consult your lawyer for better advice. So when that lawyer is you, then not only for you to be able to verify what is that information, but for you to be able to see the human angle in it is very important. So I think as a young lawyer, start getting more familiar with technology if you haven't already. I started quite late and I'm still figuring it out on how to do it. But the more I'm open to using maybe various ecosystems in the technology area, I find that my workload in terms of drafting or in terms
yeah.
of dictation and all of that is reducing.
Definitely, ma'am. Ma'am, when we are talking, like we are only talking about the technology in the previous question. So, how has technology helped you, and which legal tech tool has most impacted your work?
I don't think I have a single tech tool that I rely upon today, but I'll give you a small example. I'm not advertising for Apple, but I used to be very, very comfortable with Androids and very, very opposed to moving to another operating system. But one advantage that I find about using an Apple device is that everything is then seamless. From your phone, you copy paste to your system. From there, you are able to transpose it to your notes app. And it's always with you. Wherever you go, it is with me in court. I don't have to have an internet connection. So I think my turning point in being more efficient came from the fact that I was open to exploring new technology. That's the point I'm trying to drive home. Everybody, I think, should give themselves some leeway to step out of comfort zone and say, okay, I'm going to try something new. Let's see if it works. I think the EBC initiative in that is a great tool. They have something called the reader. You can
Yeah.
download all your case laws, all your statutes. Everything is on one iPad or your Kindle. And you can just walk around it instead of carrying some 10, 15 books with you. Everything is on a very small and portable device. And also consider the environment, guys. I think you're doing a great job if you are able to reduce your footprint generally also. Don't cut as many trees. We don't have too many left. So I think, yeah, it makes sense to embrace technology. I'm trying to get there. I have
Yes,
seen
ma'am.
people who have made the shift much later. So why not?
Definitely, ma'am. And but again, as you also mentioned, it makes your work a lot and a much easier one.
Correct.
And it has only aided. Again, if you have to really go through the hustle, and if you're not using it to your advantage, but rather and being not being mindful with using it, it might get you into trouble, and even impact your authenticity as a legal professional. So again, one has to be very mindful, let's say, while using it, especially the AI thing that is just coming on, and people are just hovering over it, that oh my god, it's such an amazing thing. But again, you have to be very mindful, because again, even chat gpt says that please consult your lawyer, please, this is not legal advice. You only mentioned that, and that is a very important thing.
That's right. Discretion is key. I think
Yeah,
even without being a lawyer, you should be able to understand that none of it is foolproof. So always trust, but also verify.
Definitely, ma'am. So, ma'am, we are done with our professional questions. We are towards our next round, which is the personal questions round. And my very first question would be about your formative years. Would you like to tell us and share about your school to college, the transition, and like the memories and how your journey has been till date? Because the first job and then you setting up your own chamber, everything is an experience in its own. Like
That's
yeah, it's tough to find words to explain every bit of it, but if you would like to share yours, it would be great.
right. Let me attempt that. So I think my formative years is I was born to parents whose my father was working in a factory and my mother is a college professor. She's now retired. Both of them, I don't think have ever treated me as a single child, pampered, none of that, because my mother comes from a very strict Air Force background and my father has defense on his own side. So I think a lot of discipline, a lot of insistence on family values and to honesty at best, that those are the value systems that was imbibed very, very young in me. And I think that's taken me a long way, because whatever comes in the form of adversity today, I think I owe it to my parents because they have taught me how to face those challenges. And my grandparents also played a very, very important role in my upbringing. I think because both my parents were working, I was mostly spending time with my grandparents, and my grandfather was someone who has seen 3 wars in his lifetime. He was in the Air Force. And I have grown up listening to stories of freedom fighters because he was in the special VIP crew in the Air Force, and he has literally flown every single freedom fighter that there is, seen all the first prime ministers, all the first presidents. And I think the one thing that he told me that to go higher up, all that takes is humility. The more you climb, the more your head should bow down with humility. And my grandmother also, she was very, very pious as a person. So she's put this fear of God and fear of right and wrong in all of us. I think all the grandchildren are, I think, doing really well for themselves because of the blessings of those two individuals. And along the line, I think when I got married, I also married into a family that's equally keen on preserving all of these value systems. And my husband happens to be a lawyer as well. So I think that, in fact, boosts your confidence, the support that you have around you. And it's very difficult to understand how litigation functions because we are working around 16 to 18 hours in a day. And I really have no time for spending separately with my family. I
Right.
take breaks whenever I can. But I think it's a contribution of all these people around me, my mom and my husband in particular, and my uncles who've been very, very supportive of my journey. I think it's only my name on the board. Otherwise, it's a lot of people in the background. My team and office is great. And I think if you love what you do, it will show eventually, if not sooner, but later. There is no other way that you will succeed if you put in the hard work and the dedication that any field requires. I don't think it's unique to law. So I think what you learn as a child is very important. What parents are able to show by example, not just sit there and give you a lecture. I think my parents led by example. My elders have always done what they have meant to teach me. So those systems are something that will benefit you throughout your lifetime. I think that's what's contributed to the success, if I can call it that.
Definitely, ma'am. So how was your college memories like? Were they fun or you were into like very much into studies, being the first
I
bencher,
would
like
say college was a lot of fun because I am someone who used to finish studying in the classroom. I used to not come back and then again open my books and do all the reading. So we had great teachers. I should give them the credit for this because 90% of my learning was done in class because the people who taught us were all stalwarts. At the time that my college started, we were the first CLAT batch in college, and we had the benefit of sitting high court judges, practicing lawyers, and some of whom have currently become judges in the Kerala High Court and other places. So we had extraordinary teachers. I should name them. I'd be failing in my duty if I don't. BK sir, Hari sir, Anil, um, Sham Sundar sir, Sham Kumar sir, who's now a judge. Similarly, KT Shankaran sir, who's a retired High Court judge, who's now on the Legal Commission. Who are a lot of these people who have dedicated their entire lives into bettering the future generation. I think they deserve a special mention. So because my learning was already complete in the classroom, I had a lot of time for other things. I played badminton. I used to represent the university whenever I can. I'm also a dancer, so I enjoyed taking time off, doing whatever I felt like, participated in all the arts days. A very regular student. I don't think sitting in the library is what constituted my life in college.
That's absolutely fantastic, ma'am, actually. So are you still continuing those hobbies whenever you get time, or that is something that you have left far behind and you're very much into your like other stuff now?
So the profession is unforgiving in terms of the amount of time that it takes, but I think we do take breaks whenever we can. And as an office, also we are very much into sports. So whenever there is a what do you call association badminton championship or some cricket match, or we make it a part of our schedule to fit in practice to go and participate. It also increases your feeling of fraternity and feeling of camaraderie within the bar, I think, and that sort of kept us going even on the personal front. And I think we do make time to do everything that we used to like, of course in reduced quantity sometimes, regrettably, but that is the give and take in the profession. I don't think there is anyone who can claim to be successful without giving law the hours that it requires.
Yeah. And the more you invest, the like more you grow is the key to our profession, let's say.
That is right. That is right.
Yes, ma'am. So what do you enjoy after a very long day at work to unwind and relax?
I mean, if I can borrow their tagline, Netflix and chill, I think. Because my husband and I have this favorite corner in our media room on top. I think the only significant investment we have made in our house is one recliner and one nice Apple TV. We sit there, watch something to unwind during the end of the day, and then we hit the bed. I think that's one phase of chilling. And then in the morning, we have taken to going to the gym now, which is again very recent. I don't know how long that will last, but
It will, ma'am. It will.
in our schedule, I think it's very important that we pay attention to our health also. This is something that my mother has been telling me from the time that I set foot in the profession. It's only now that it's dawning upon me. When you are
Right.
towards your 35s and your knees start hurting, your back starts paining, you're not able to climb 2 flights of stairs without panting, I think that's when your body is calling out to you and saying, do something for me also.
Right. So do you like traveling? If yes, like what are your some of the favorite travel destinations? And how does travel, if it does, how does it inspires you in your personal and professional life, let's say?
That's a very nice question. I think travel is something that everybody in my family holds very close to them. It is important that we take out the time to explore a new culture, a new set of people, get influenced by new languages, by food, because I think it opens up your thinking, your horizons as a person. And it also tells you so many good things that there are in the world that you can then come back and imbibe for yourself. I think a person who doesn't travel is very dead, because if you can't appreciate nature, if you can't appreciate good art or architecture, I think you're missing out on the best parts of life. There is only so much that a book or a case in court or something will satisfy you. After a point in time, everything gets monotonous. So I think I like to break that monotony by traveling. I'm a forest person. So if you give me a holiday, I will hit the nearest forest I can. And the sheer sound of the crickets creaking or the serenity around the place actually helps me connect to my roots better, I think. All of us are primal at some point. So I think it's very important to go back to that.
Definitely, ma'am. Ma'am, last question for the round. That if you are to describe yourself in one line, what that line would be?
One line.
Yeah.
I think my husband says this best. I'm mostly harmless. Otherwise, I would say I'm a constant journey of improvement. I'm only in competition with myself. And that's rewarding because every day, if you're a better version of yourself from the previous day, I think you've made it.
Absolutely. So that is it with our personal questions round, ma'am, as well. We are towards the last round, which is the rapid fire round. And again, as the name suggests, you have to be very quick with the answers. And then we would be winding up the entire conversation.
Do I
So
also need to be
let
honest with the answers?
Yeah, please. And it's not very tough one that you will have to think upon. It's like very simple one. So let's start. Books or movies?
Movies.
Morning person or a night owl?
Night owl.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Mountains or beaches?
Neither.
Favorite? Okay, yours is jungle.
Oh,
Fa-
sorry.
yours is jungle.
Yeah, mine is a jungle.
Favorite legal drama?
Legal drama.
Any? Like,
I mean, I used to like Suits when I was younger, but now I know it's all fake. My own job is my favorite legal drama.
okay. One word to describe your work ethic.
Honest.
Your go-to stress buster.
Um, Go to stress buster. I think gardening.
What's a guilty pleasure?
Food.
Favorite cuisine?
North Indian.
If not a lawyer, what would you be?
I'd be a dancer.
So that is it, ma'am, for our today's conversation. This has been a wonderful experience, and I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did having you on the show. I again thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to have this session with us. A very, very, very big thank you to you, ma'am.
Oh, likewise, I thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much for having me over.
It's our we are very much obliged, ma'am, actually. And for our audience, please stay tuned to watch this and many other interesting conversation episodes on our YouTube channel, The Coffee Conversation Show. And please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Looking forward to another guest speaker with another interesting topic. We would be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you so much, ma'am, once again.
Thank you and good luck to you. Bye.
Same, ma'am.